Hello YouTubers, so here's another off video from the normal content that I usually produce. This video will be mainly about air vents slash registers, and a viewer has requested me to make a video touching the subject because he also likes collecting air vents, which I happen to have so many of these over here. I believe his name goes by, Jaden Malin, if I pronounced your name correctly. So, this is not all I have either. This is just a small pile that I happen to have in this room right now. But I have many more. So, here's a couple of modern vents that you could purchase at Home Depot right now if you wanted to. They're very expensive. They're branded Everbuilt, but I know that these ones, including these, are made by a company called True Air. They used to have the True Air branding on them, which I think I do have some still brand new in the package with the True Air tag, which I'll probably show you guys here in the video. So, let's start out with these two here. These two came off of my house. They came off of this house where I'm at right now. The reason is because these started looking dingy, so I just replaced them. But when these things get a little rusty or dingy, I just kind of hold on to these. I don't throw them in the garbage like a lot of people do because these are actually very expensive. Now, these two are from 2004 because that's when my house was built. These ones are from 2022. Well, they're probably likely manufactured back in 2021, but these two you can get at your local Home Depot because Home Depot, Everbuilt is a Home Depot brand. Now, I remember probably 4 years ago, for just this style, here, your 4-way supply vent, I do believe it was like around $18. Which at this time it was still pricey, but now these are like almost $30 for one of these, a 10x10. This one for sure is $32, and this one is the fancier type, I like to call it, with the curved blades. But they're nice, but they're very expensive. So I have a pile of them all over here. Some brand new and a bunch of the old ones. Now, the only thing different between this and this is really just the shutter. The little handle down there. See how it's all curved? And how this one's kind of like this? That's the only thing different, but other than that, it's pretty much the same. These are 10x10s. This one here is a 6x6 I took out of the bathroom next to my room because this one started to look kind of really dingy. And I just put another 6x6 up, but it started to rust slightly, as you can see around the shutters. And the edge, the face of it used to look pretty bad, but I just took one of those Mr. Clean Magic little magic erasers, and they cleaned the face up really nice. Got some chipping paint, as you can see, around the little fins. It's not that big of a deal. I got some other custom ones here that I got powder coated. Now, this one used to look really bad. I think this one is a 6x14 or a 14x6. I think this one I found at an estate sale. I practically paid nothing for it. I bought it with a pile of miscellaneous stuff, and this was just thrown in there. But the face of it had this like really sandy looking residue on it, and a bunch of just a bunch of stuff on it that I couldn't scrub off with a sponge. So when I took in my speaker baffles, I decided to throw these in there and a light fixture. Because that place, it's called Competition Coatings. They sandblast all your stuff that you take in, so that way the powder coat can adhere to the surface of the metal. And if I wanted to put this outside, I could, because this paint will last. This could handle the elements really well. which that's what my gate this gate my grandpa made. This gate is about, I want to say, like 14 years old now. And that paint is still in fantastic shape all these years. Came from the same place. So these will have no issues being out in the elements. Now this one here, this one is a weird size because this one is actually custom. This one came off of my grandma's double wide mobile home. Because 10 years, well, not 10 years ago, 12 years ago, they were doing a major re-renovation in the house. And this was above a door that led to the master bedroom of the house. It was just above a door, and there was another one of these on the other side, but the other one, I don't know what happened to it. It's long gone somewhere. But this one used to be silver. I believe this one's from 1978, because that was when the home was manufactured, around 1978. Which is also the same house where this electrical panel came from that you see on the ground here. But it used to be silver, but in the back it was all rusty because when that house was first manufactured, there was no AC in that house. All it was swamp coolers. So the humidity from the swamp coolers caused this to rust pretty bad in the back. So decided to get this powder coated recently, and it turned out nice. I just keep them in the plastic wrap until I want to use them somewhere, so that way I don't chip the paint off. And this one I just got recently. This one used to be full latex paint. Like somebody painted it over with latex paint. So what I did was I just dunked this in a bucket of degreaser. And degreaser does a pretty fantastic job of removing all that latex paint. And I believe this one is a 6x10 return vent. It even cleaned the fins up really nicely. Let's see, it's got like a rounded off edge, which I never seen on a return. Like, see, this is just your standard return. So, yeah, that's all the ones from in here. Now, time to dig out all the ones in the shop to show you guys, because I have lots of these in the shop. Here's more vents that I have, which, by the way, this is not all. There's more. But this is a small selection. Here's more of those True Air ones that I have in here. Those ones are brand new. Here's another one from 2004 that came off this house. I got another new one here. This one is a 12x12, and this one is just a two-way. Looks kind of cool looking. Looks like a couple of 6x12s stacked on top of each other with the single, but this one has a single shutter. I think this one was a Home Depot returns. I think this one was marked down, but it's really pricey. Now, finding a 10x10 version of this, good luck. I don't even think True Air doesn't make that anymore, because it says out of stock online. So there's that. I got this fancy commercial grade / industrial grade supply air vent or / register. This one I tore out of Metro Center. There was a bathroom in that store that I got, so I decided to rip this out. Now this cone piece here, these two cones, it actually clips off of the body here. And this one is technically just an 8x8. It just fits into an 8x8 opening. It has a little shutter on the side, as you can see. Now this one unfortunately is painted over. Aluminum. These other ones are steel. Here is a 16x16 return vent, which I think this one's made by True Air too. This one's a little bit beaten up. It's put away in storage for a while. And I don't know what that residue is, but I think I used to mess around with this one as a kid, if I'm not mistaken. I've had that one forever. I got a 14x8 wall register vent. Now this one came off of my grandma's house too, but it was on a edition they did many years ago. And I think they wanted this replaced with a much more better vent to push the air up, because this one was all the way at the ground. And it had a hard time keeping the room cool, so we put a new one on. And this one is actually made of real good steel. It's got to suffer a little bit of rust and paint damage, but I think this one's from the 90s. 80s or the 90s, one of those two. That's when I think that room was built in 1989, added on to the house. Here's a 16 by 8 Everbuilt return vent. Here's an 8 by 8 True Air, which I did find, you can actually find these at Goodwill. If you look in the electronics section, if you're hunting these, trying to hunt these down, go in the electronics section. You'll be surprised what you find sometimes. And some of these are actually a reasonable price. Way less than what you pay for at Home Depot. Because these are expensive. There's another one brand new. Another True Air. This one is an aluminum. It's got an aluminum. I think, yeah, this is all just aluminum. There's another True Air from this house. Like the other ones in the room. Here is another True Air. Here's the True Air logo. Just a 10 by 6 return. And then two more of these 10 by 10s made by True Air, rebranded as Everbuilt. And then here, you got your typical 24 by 24 lay-in ceiling tile type event that or slash diffuser. Now I actually have 6 more put away. These ones I tore out of Metro Center. These ones you would see in the drop ceiling. Here's the opening. Those of you that are curious. That is a 12-inch collar. That's what you call this opening here, is a collar for your duct to attach to. I think these ones are from the 80s or the late 80s, early 90s. And this little dot here, you could actually remove this if you wanted to put one of those butterfly dampers above the opening here. You could. There's the opening there. It just clips in. That's why in some places, if you look at the ceiling carefully, you'll see all these dust streaks around this opening here. It's because this is just a plug. Now these other little rivets here, these ones are just, it's just rivets to hold these cones in place onto the support. So let me dig out the other batch to show you. Okay, so here's another batch of vents here. So I got some strange ones in here. Let's start off with this one. This one I found at the Goodwill, and I think it was like 99 cents if I'm not mistaken. You ever seen a 12 by 2? I think these are probably more common in like fancy buildings with special architectural characteristics, or probably RVs. But here's a 12 by 2, brand new in the package. HVAC premium. I'm sure I don't know if that's an Amazon brand, but there's that. I got some with the original True Air packaging. See, True Air Smooth Glide. This one brand new. This one I found at the Goodwill several years back. Here's another one right here. This is just a 3-way. 10 by 4s. This one has been opened. It's the same thing. Here's an 8 by 8. This one's a True Air. Here's another 8 by 8, but I don't know. This is a generic. I don't know who made this one, but it's certainly different from that other one, the True Air. I believe this is from the 90s, if I'm not mistaken. This came from that family-owned restaurant. We were doing some renovations in the back office because there was an office. But if you wanted this replaced with the new one, just because this looked a little dingy at the time. So here's that. Here's a 6 by 6 True Air, a fancy curved type. Here's another True Air 2-way. I think this one was an Accord, if I'm not mistaken. This one is, I think, Accord, which is a Lowe's brand. Because that was installed in 2010, and it was on the floor because it was in a mobile home, and it, got all beaten up. So here's that. I think this one is called Shoemaker. I believe that's how you pronounce it. This one is a Shoemaker 4-way. They make a whole range of these. Here's an Accord, Lowe's brand. Just your typical 4-way. Here's another one of those True Airs. This one was brand new. Brand new out of the packaging. Don't mind all this stuff here. It's just sawdust because I keep them in here. We have an aluminum 3-way air vent, supply vent. Now these ones came from Mexico. They came off of a beach house that my other grandma and grandpa have over there. And these got all removed and we're going to get thrown out, so I just saved these. I think this one is a 18 by 18 return air vent. So this one used to be in a kitchen. Got all grimy looking. Maybe one of these days I'll probably take this one in to get powder coated. Got a couple of bathroom exhaust grills here. They're just plastic. This one is a new tone. This one's original to my house. And that brawn is just lying around. We got a Pro Select supply vent. This one is actually a commercial grade, high grade aluminum air vent made by Pro Select. There we go, there's Pro Select right there. Now, there is actually a it's not a restore, but it's a used building supply store. And for the longest time, they used to have all kinds of air registers / vents and supply and return vents. Their pricing was actually pretty cheap for these things. Every single vent they had there, no matter the shape, size, or type, $2 per vent / register. That's where I got this one. I bought that from there, and then there was an older video I made with all the thrift store find video with another one of these vents and then a circular one. The circular, all those other ones I actually got from there too, and I paid $2 for them. Even those types, $2, which is impressive. And here is another True Air 8x8 return. We'll dig out more. Here's another batch. So there's 2 more of those ones I got from Mexico. Those ones are aluminum. Here's another True Air. Yeah, I got a couple of interesting vintage vents here / registers. These ones are very common, I believe, back in the 70s into the 80s. Mainly in commercial establishments. I think this one is a 12 by 12. Oh, wait. No, this is a 10 by 10. It matches up with that one. This is a 10 by 10. 2-cone air supply vent for a register. Here's an 8 by 8. Right here. Got old school shutter. These ones are also common in a lot of older commercial establishments made around built around the 70s into the 80s. I believe this one is a 12 by, this one I think is a 14 by 6. This one got a little damage, as you can see. There's no edge on this one. That's the way how it came. This one's made of all American steel. I can tell because it's really heavy. This one's from 1972. It got ripped out of my other grandma and grandpa's house that was built in 1972. It used to be gray. Here's this generic looking 10 by 10. I also got from the place for $2. Stardust, that's what the place is called. A lot of older residential homes built into the 90s used this style, as I noticed. At least in my area, they seem to use this style. I don't know who made this one, but I'm sure some of you might know. Here's this generic looking 8x8. It's a 4-way. See how the blades are different on that? Blades on this one's the Smooth Glide. This one is kind of a generic looking 8x8. Here's another True Air. There's another True Air, one of those fancy curved 8x8s. So you notice the difference between this and that? This one's more kind of pointy. And these two are intentionally bent like that by the manufacturer. I didn't do that. That was the way I came. Here's a two-way 8x8 made by True Air. Here's this, I think this one's an Accord. An older Accord 10x10 return vent. Here's another 10x10. And yeah, that's the other batch here. Got another one to show you. Okay, back with more here. I have another True Air 12x12, smooth glide type, and then here's another True Air 12x12, but the kind of the curve style. There's the two next to each other. Now this one I think I've had for like 10 years now. And this one is just, I don't know, probably 5 years. Got a couple more True Airs, but these ones unfortunately were weathered and kind of beat it up. That's why they look all kind of yellowish looking and it's kind of rusty. This is what the sun does to the powder coat paint. These were literally in the dirt, sitting outside. They were in the dirt. See, the paint on the shoulders are all messed up. I have like 5 of these 14x16 return vents. These ones came from my other grandma's house, the one that lives in the double wide mobile home. These used to be used for the swamp cooler, which that got abandoned and all the openings just got closed up over the years. This is what the original color used to be. It used to be this kind of this grayish whitish color, and these ones I painted over, which unfortunately has yellowed a little bit over time. But I think these were from the 90s. They actually had to replace, these are not original to the trailer. The reason these ones got replaced with these is because the other ones all got rusted out. This was way before I was born. Otherwise, I would have saved those rusty ones too and just got them professionally powder coated if I wanted to. Here is a 16x16 return vent or register. Here is one of those True Air 14x14s, which by the way, you can't get these at Home Depot. You have to order them online. A correction on this one's a 14x14 return. Here's all the wall vents on the ground here. These three here are the same. I believe they're made by, I think, Accord. The Lowe's brand. Well, these three are all the same. I believe from the 90s and on. Here is a 16x6 supply wall vent. This one's a little bit beat up, but as you can see, it suffered a little bit of rust. When I got this, I think I paid $2 for this one too in the past. It actually had a little bit of mold on it. So I actually took the time and I scrubbed all this down outside before bringing these inside the house, because obviously we don't want mold. I have this really old 6x8 supply air vent. And here it is compared to a modern True Air 6x8. I think this is probably 70s or the 80s, and then this one here, I got this one like almost 8 years ago. Or 7 years ago. There's those two. Here is a Shoemaker 12x8. Or no, 12x6. This one is Shoemaker brand. And it's got a very small look at shutter on it. Here's this generic 6x10. I think this one I found at a thrift store too. I think this one was Value Village. And this one was caked with nicotine. It had a very strong nicotine smell. It sort of still has a faint nicotine smell to it. It was yellowed when I got it, and then the shutters were seized. So I put a pinch of WD-40 in the little rivets there, and it opens and closes nicely now. And this was all covered in painter's tape residue and whatnot too, so that got clean. And I think that one's all steel. I think I featured this in another video in the past. It was a thrift stores find video, but this one's actually a 6x20 commercial / industrial grade aluminum supply air vent that goes on the wall. Now these shutters is kind of interesting, so you could actually close out half of this if you wanted to. So that way you're not hogging all the air up or whatnot. So it's independent, which is quite cool. So yeah, this is all the vents I have new and used. I did in the past, and I don't have them anymore, but a couple of years ago, my next door neighbors, they got their AC, new AC equipment and whatnot, because I guess their old stuff failed. But the technicians also changed out their filter returns, which I happened to save those, but I no longer have them. There were a couple 20x20s and a 30x20, which I'll probably shove some pictures in the video.